Betimes our paths are laid before us by a power greater than our own. In those moments, it's our task to make our feet go where our hearts wish not to tread, no matter the perils awaiting our way. Yeah.
Bless.
Oh my God. Stop trying to be cool.
I don't know that I ever was cool. There was like 2 moments where I was cool, and then that went all away. Really
What were they?
quickly. I was like, for the first time ever, I was like in the cool clique at my improv studio. Like all of a sudden, I was like,
Never mind.
"Fuck!"
Audience, I'm so sorry. That was my fault.
That is cruel. Wow. Okay, forget it. Anyway, welcome to Podcast of the Rings. I'm Jessica Lynn, Verdi, and with me, as always, is my bully, Ben Goddard. Yeah,
absolutely. High school bully here. Hey, you know what? I got Best Actor in high school drama, so I am not above acting or anything like that.
I mean, I understand that, and I'm proud of you. I expect nothing less of my friends to have those kind of accolades. High school's no joke, though.
Yeah, we had a really good drama program at my high school. Like, we did, my sister, her senior year, did Les Miserables, and it was like big news in the county because it was, it's a very hard play to pull off, obviously.
Cute, long play, yeah.
Long play, all singing. But like I'll see if I can find a picture because like they did the barricade set. It's very impressive.
Wow.
It's very impressive.
And this is a Catholic school, yeah?
No, this was public high school.
Oh, was it? That's even more interesting. Because, the politics at my Catholic high school that I went to for 2 years, depending on how much you donated, you were more likely to get the role, let's say.
Oh, wow, okay.
So there was, like, definitely those politics. And ultimately, I don't know that I was as talented then as I am now, or as like some of those girls were that I was like, oh, their mom just volunteers and bought the bear because they did Les Mis too after I left, and
okay,
and could afford like some amazing sets and whatever, but that was half of the game that they played. That
for sure.
But anyway, yeah, we're talking about some decent acting today in the final episode of Rings of Power.
Yeah, after that quote, which is said by the stranger, who is played by, I don't even know the actor's name just because, he's been a mute this whole season. Well, not a mute, but, like Daniel Wayman. And his IMDb, like, he looks so different without, long, scraggly hair and a beard. It's crazy.
That's why I love casting too, because they'll be like, you know what, I think this guy could do it, or maybe his agent pitched him hard, and he got the role, and he's good for it. He really is good for it.
No, and that's the thing is that like it's I understand like the story needs to be the story, but it is a detriment that this is his only real speaking episode because he's so good, like and this is the episode where everyone theorizes that he's Gandalf because of the whole follow your nose thing.
Sure.
But that quote is great, and then right under it there's another one where it's like, alone it's just a journey, now adventures they must be shared. And like that's another great line. And so he's just rattling them off.
This whole time I've been entertaining your Sauron theory. And by the way, folks can hear the city streets below. It's because I'm airing out carbon monoxide from my apartment right now. So just deal with the room tone being as it is. I don't think I can actually get behind it being Sauron anymore because there's so many things like that. Like this episode ruins the Sauron theory for me because even the staff fight with the 3 witches, they're mimicking how Sauron turns Gandalf in the air, which I hate, but that's like one thing. Unless that's where Sauron learned the move to do that to Gandalf.
Oh wait, what? So what's the theory? You mean Sauron?
I always say Sauron.
Okay, I was a little confused. Okay.
No, I appreciate that. I do that every fucking time. Every time.
So you are 100% bought in that the stranger is Gandalf.
I can't imagine it would be anybody else but Gandalf. And this episode solidifies that for me. He's too
It is
nice,
tough
the
to say.
adventure.
Yeah.
But it was like fun to entertain it because this is the third time I've watched this all the way through. So it was kind of fun to kind of go, are there Sauron twinklings here? And there's some inconsistencies that I'm going to have a hard time wrapping my head around. Like, why did these rune ladies want him? Yes, they thought he was Sauron, but why would Gandalf have to go to Rune? And what did they show him that he believes is true that also mirrors Sauron? It actually leaves more frustrating questions than this episode answers, but just some interesting things to think about too.
Yeah, it's like they I've talked about how a lot of seasons in TV are just kind of prologues to the rest of the show.
Yes,
and it's been very frustrating in the past few years where, shows think they're guaranteed, 3 or 4 seasons when you're not. Like, you got to tell a full story to get that second season. And I feel like this show very much towed the line because they are guaranteed more seasons. But I mean, Amazon's not afraid to pull the plug. Like, they can recoup
what.
I think season 2, we've talked about a lot. I think season 2 is going to be very important and decisive because a lot of this first season is coasting off the good graces of the movies.
Sure.
And, fans that, just want some Middle-earth content that we haven't gotten in, like 9 years or so.
Right.
So I think this second season and you have a lot of good setup. You have your wizard and Harfoot / Hobbit on their adventure now. You've got Sauron returning to Mordor and Sauron Adar fights. Who knows? You have started the plot now. So what are you going to do? You have the dwarves awakening the Balrog.
Right.
You have, Durin being supposedly cast out and maybe some political intrigue with the kingdom of Moria. So you have a lot of really good setups and what's going to happen. Did Gil-galad and the rest of the elves actually leave? Are they still there? We don't know.
Were they successful or not or whatever? Sure.
We got the rings forming. We have the 3 elven rings now. So there's a lot on the table, a lot of directions they can go with this. And this was a better finale than I remember. And the show is better than I remember,
bad.
honestly.
No,
because the scene, we'll get to it. I think we should do the Harfoots first and then get to the Halbrand Galadriel stuff. But that scene of the reveal is very well done. As much as I don't like it makes no sense, watching this again of like knowing who he is, like all the surprises aren't really there. And the fact that the whole season is just like, is this Sauron? No, it's like a game of guess who. Like, is Sauron a middle-aged, white, half-corrupted elf? Nope. Okay, click.
Does he wear glasses?
Yeah. Does he have a beard and long, scraggly hair with a robe? Nope. Click. Is he smoldering temptress? Yes. Oh, it's Halbrand. You win. Guess who? That's literally what this whole season is that Saurons keep popping up with Adar, with the 3 witches, with the stranger, and Halbrand, and then just like one by one, like, he's not Sauron. Oh, he's not Sauron. Oh, they're not Sauron. It's like, okay, oh my god, like, I get it, but overall, that scene between them
when it's revealed,
and with her brother, and then back on the ship, and like him tempting her, great stuff. A+ stuff right there.
Yeah, I look forward to talking more about my opinion on exactly what you just said there. Was this a season or was this just one whole mystery? And why didn't we get a plot? Could we have just enjoyed a plot where we knew he was Sauron from the top? So next episode, we're going to talk like the overview of what we think of this season, having rewatched it, and maybe like what we hope to see in season 2. But I'm with you that sequence when he's basically like tempting her with power and love, it's very hot and it's very good. I couldn't agree with you more. So yeah, what ends up happening is we happen upon the stranger who's sad and unravels an apple. Only one apple,
right?
He's been
like a tiny apple, like a little mandarin apple. Like, what are those, cuties? He unwraps a cutie apple, basically.
Oh my god, yeah. He's got one of those mini apples that you get on like platters that you're not meant to eat or whatever. Yes. Or my mom made us apple ornaments years and years ago. They looked good though. They looked like you could eat them. Baby apple. And the three sirens of Sauron, basically lure him in. And they're like, you're our daddy, and we're going to teach you who you are. And we bow to you, Sauron. He's fine. They don't need to come get him.
He's good. He's chilling. And that's the thing is that I know they needed to create some kind of, enemy for the Harfoots. But, like, I don't understand the witches, like, at all. I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand who, like, they think he's Sauron. So, they say Istari. They say the word Istari.
Right.
So, we know.
When they realize.
When they realize he's not Sauron. And when, like, he realized, because he's even like, I guess I'm Sauron. I don't know, man. Like, this seems pretty cool. I got 3 hot chicks with me. Let's go.
They're going to tie me up. It's great.
Right. I mean, there's worse ways to be this Middle Earth. But just, like, I don't understand this angle, and it seems like just to be all for naught at the end, where it's just like, oh, you're like, they finally get to him. You think they're there to kill him, but they're not, and they're like, oh, we're here to help you. Oh, you're not Sauron? Okay, we're gonna kill you. It's like, oh, okay, that didn't last very long. Like,
well, and I'm so confused about what crossover there could possibly be that Gandalf, let's just say he's Gandalf.
It's fine.
Needs to go to Rune for. Like, these witches want to take Sauron back to Rune to regain his power.
I'm looking at least like the IMDb synopsis, and it says that the constellation he seeks is in Rune.
That's right, but why? Because
I don't know. I don't know
whatever
what
they showed him, he said that rang true, and I can't explain why.
And that's the thing, like, we got this constellation, like, this second episode when he, like, couldn't say a single word and stuff like that. And then this is kind of the only other time it's really been brought up.
That's not true. They gave him the thing he unraveled was the map to Rune. She's talked about it. They're going to the star. He wants to go to the stars. I think you're just blanking it out.
I think I'm just blocking all this stuff out because it's so uninteresting.
I don't ever want to tell you you're wrong, but it's brought up to the point where I know that's his.
I believe you.
That's his vibe. Is the stars.
Okay. God, because I do not remember any other moment where I'm just like, oh yeah, the stars are a thing here, I guess. But I don't know. It's so strange that we needed more from this. And that's the thing, is that we are going to talk about if this is a season or if this is a prologue. And if it's a prologue, okay, make it 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Label it as such and be like, hey, this is the setup for what we're going to bring you. And then in a few years, you're going to get 12 banger movie-like episodes.
Totally.
And it's like, okay, cool.
Totally.
Now, granted, would people have still been, like, upset by it? Of course. People are upset by everything nowadays. But you set so much up, but it's like, okay, so the Númenóreans went to Middle-earth and then came back to Númenor, and the king is finally dead, and does Elendil's daughter look into the Palantir?
I think that's the insinuation.
Yeah, but we don't see that. We don't see what she's... Probably a wave crashing, because that's what everybody sees. And then they're just back. And I don't know. It's a lot of, no pun intended, wheel spinning with a lot of these things. Where I think the only thing that moves forward is part of Galadriel's storyline with, the forming of Mordor, which is somehow named Mordor, like... Who's going to be the first one to say it out loud? Let's take a bet. Who's going to be the first character to say Mordor out loud?
Ooh. I think it's going to be Halbrand.
Halbrand? Okay.
I do think
I'm going to
so.
say Adar.
I was going to say Adar, but I think if the showrunners know what they're doing, it will be Halbrand.
That's fair. But it's just like... I like a lot of this stuff, rewatching it, and this season finale was good, but
quick too. Like, I didn't feel like it was dragging too much.
Yeah, like the goodbye of Nori, like, felt a little long. That was
egregious. I'm sorry, I cut you off, but
no, but it was just like, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling because I am a bit hungover today, and that is my fault. But
Fine, I'll take over if you want.
yeah, feel free. Just jump in. But it's just like I like a lot of this stuff. I really do.
Right.
But it felt like we didn't get enough answers. Like this should have been the answer episode, and we got a few. Is Sauron Halbrand? Halbrand Sauron? Yes, we got that one. Who's the stranger? Well, he's not evil, but we don't really know who he is, or like where he came from, or what the stars are, or any of that. Like, there's so much left to go on that side. Who sent the witches? We don't know. What's gonna happen with the Mithril and Durin? Who knows? They're just gone. They're just gone from the season, which is a huge mistake.
Totally.
And then the formation of the rings, I mean, the small circular objects that radiate power and light. Like
I've never heard that word before.
Yeah, what? I don't, what is...
Something...
I could have swore, like, I always made that joke, but I could have swore they say the word rings. They don't.
No. Not until Fiona Apple sings it.
Like, is that really Fiona Apple?
Oh, yeah.
Is it really?
Yes.
Whoa.
Well, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you have like these badass women do. Besides Ed Sheeran does a song, right? But
oh, misty eye of the mountain below. Hey, you know what I will say and I will, my whole first episodes of this show is me defending the Hobbit movies to you two.
That's exactly right.
And granted, should Smaug have died in the second movie? Absolutely, for sure. But that cutoff of what have we done? I am fire, I am death, and then you cut to black and no credits, and then you just have Ed Sheeran's hauntingly beautiful voice. Like I got chills in the theater. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I will defend that. Granted, it makes no sense because then Smaug dies 5 minutes into the movie, and you're like, all right, I guess we're moving on here.
Totally. But yeah, I will never begrudge you your theatrical experience there. But you're right. Awesome. Just logically, it's not the smartest move ultimately. But yeah, Fiona Apple basically creates a song about the rings, the ring poem, essentially, at the end. That's who it is. As we see Halbrand walking into Mordor.
So are we going to have Halbrand showing up to Moria and convincing the dwarves they need rings, and then same with the men?
Oh.
Because, like, it feels like the elves have their 3 rings way before anybody else has even thought about these things.
Which is also incorrect, like, lore-wise. I believe once the elves realized that Sauron was the one who was helping them make the rings, them make the rings, they went, oh, crap, we need to make rings that are untouched by him.
Yes.
So that's why I can get behind people talking about this like being like fan fiction or something, because that does really that changes things. But this whole season, if we look at it logically, or if I'm trying to look at it from the showrunner's perspective, we saw... Oh, we didn't actually. I was going to say we've seen all 3 of the elves that will be gifted these rings. That's actually not true. We haven't seen the shipmaster, who people have theorized has been cast for the next season. There's a guy that is from the early days elf world that ends up giving his ring to Gandalf, who we haven't seen yet.
Okay.
He's something the shipmaster. Did you look
Círdan?
it up? Círdan.
Okay.
Círdan.
I just Googled that. Don't think I just pulled it.
No, I didn't think you pulled it. I could hear the tip-tapping.
I was trying to type very quietly.
But so that guy, I was going to say, if you're looking at it from the showrunner's perspective, this series shows us the people that are going to get this set of rings. Next series is going to show us the set of people that's going to get that set of rings. But they actually didn't do that because we never met Círdan. So, that's interesting.
What if he just showed up at the end like, hey, I'm Círdan. Thanks, bye.
Bye. You have Nenya. I'll take that one.
Yeah.
It's blue like the sea. But also we've got to get to that is probably why Gandalf is in this ultimately, because Gandalf ends up getting the ring. He's gifted it by Círdan or Círdan.
Oh, like how far in? Like how
I don't
deep?
remember, but
Okay.
I'm latched on to that amount of lore because that's how Gandalf does end up with the ring. The guy's like, "Here you go. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever." But that guy's a badass, so that could be interesting storytelling too.
Yeah, Gil-galad gave his ring to Elrond, and Círdan gave his to Gandalf
Right.
at the end of the Third Age, when the rings finally lost their power and were taken into the West. The keepers were Elrond, Galadriel, and Gandalf.
At the end of the Third Age.
I think those sentences are separate. Like Elrond gave his to Círdan, and Círdan gave his, or Gil-galad gave his to Elrond. Círdan gave his to Gandalf. Period. At the end of the Third Age, when the rings finally lost their powers, they were taken into the West.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Same page now.
Yeah.
So just to so that actually even further solidifies that this is Gandalf, because we are going to get Círdan in the next episode season. They've already pretty much, like, some of the people that they show that are cast are like, oh, I could see it be that dude.
For sure.
But yeah, they end up saving him. Sadok is brutally what should be just cut in half, but ends up living and bleeding out for another 30 minutes when they fight the people.
That's where they do a good job. I only noticed it really, like, we've noticed it a few times with like the forced perspective being really good in some places and really bad in some places.
Right.
And it was really good with the apple, little tiny apple, because like little tiny people. But then, like, the other giant ladies that have been shown to be giant ladies comparative to, and they're just tall in general. They're like 7 or 8 feet tall anyways. Like, so they, like, I've been into an NBA game. Those guys are giants. Like, they're big dudes. And so, like, when they've got the weapons, and it's proven where Sting is a dagger. Sting is a dagger and is a full-size sword for Bilbo and Frodo.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally it's a letter opener, or a toothpick is what Balin tells him. Like, it's great. But
it's perfect for him. He's the perfect size.
Perfect. And so, I don't know, like, they could have done a good job with, like, oh my gosh, these weapons are so huge, and just like dodging them. And even when they get thrown at Nori and Poppy and they get stuck and they're about to die, like, they're like little tiny ninja star looking things, and it's like, no, they like, that's in her full hand, like, they'd be bigger. So it's not really a nitpick when you, I don't know, it's just
it takes you out of it immediately, because I genuinely remember thinking that the first watch through. I was like, so basically the same size sword she just threw, like, landed in Sadok. Basically, it doesn't look like there's any difference in size, and it should.
Yeah, it should, and especially like with the staff too, where I don't know if we just watched it, but just I don't feel like she struggles picking it up or anything when, like, she should.
Yep,
it's a big staff,
the same size as those bitches, and I mean that lovingly. Well, they're also bad, so
yeah, they're bad bitches.
Bad batches. I can't. Every time I see Bad Batch, I'm like, oh, I can't believe they named Star Wars that.
But yeah, it is a good moment with him, like, coming to terms with who he is and, like, saying, I am good. I like that. I don't like, I mean, I understand it that, and I think that leads more into the Gandalf theory, where, like, he's going to create his own staff, and Gandalf's staff is, like that, basically like a tree branch that looks like all windswept and stuff like that.
Sure, yes.
So I think on this journey, he's going to create either in Rune or with Nori or something. He's going to realize that he needs a staff to harness his powers. Because, like, in that same fight, he, like, does his fist slam again, and they, like, kind of fall over, and they're like, oh no, but they're immediately back up and fighting. But then when he has the staff, he, like, obliterates them.
But question, isn't it movie canon that the staff Gandalf has that's windswept is Radagast's?
That is true, isn't it?
He takes Radagast's staff.
He does take it in The Hobbit. I totally forgot about that. Because he loses his in Dol Guldur to Sauron.
That's right. So it's not to say that it has to be that they don't have to adhere to the movies. But I do think whatever staff he makes isn't necessarily the one we see him with later. Especially since I have a feeling we will see Gandalf here, and we can talk about this more next episode, but I think we will see him in this series, and I think we will see him decorporealized or killed, because then he has to come back. I do think that's what's going to happen based off of what we were talking about when we realized Gandalf's not supposed to be here right now. So yeah. I think that's what we're going to see happen. We're probably dealing with Gandalf the Brown right now, and he'll come back as Gandalf the Gray or something like that. I think that's where I'm
I guess
at
Gandalf
with
has
this.
like 5 different staffs. I'm looking at this Screen Rant article where like he's got the opening flower in The Hobbit, and then Radagast, and then Radagast spear is dwindled. It's damaged over time.
That's why he like tweaks the and then when he comes back, he has a new staff. It's so annoying and so just only plot driven that once he banishes the 3 witches, much like they're very reminiscent of the Nazgul, essentially. Yes. I think that was meant to be that was meant to evoke that.
Definitely when they're getting exercised to very Nazgul imagery, for
100%. But it was so plot driven to have the fucking staff decorporealize as well.
Yeah,
like, come on, dude.
It definitely was, for sure. Like, it's like...
But I love your idea. I think watching him, build like a little bird, his own... like staff.
I think it's going to happen because even his Hobbit staff is very like natured. It looks like a tree, like kind of twisted more than like the Radagast windswept one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's what's going to happen. But it is very like plot driven, where it's like, oh yeah, you can't have your staff yet. You're too powerful. Yeah.
Well, look what you could do. But but I love your idea. I think that's a really clever idea. But so then they survive. Sadik dies. Poppy knows how to read the map. The bitch doesn't. Now that woman is a bitch.
Just the word, like the fact that this is where the writers are so tone deaf, where she's the leader now, and I guess like she would be,
sure,
because she's the oldest, but it's just like it should be Poppy's dad. Like he's been giving speeches this whole time and gives yet another good like life advice for like he even says like I haven't prepared you for this moment, and she gives him all the advice of like everything he's ever taught her, and it's like that's a good dad, and he should like he's like the one good Harfoot that I'm like rooting for, that I really like, and like you have the old crony a-hole like leading the Harfoots, like God, like it's just the worst. It's just the absolute worst.
Yeah.
And especially like Sadik it is a sad death, he's like, I just want to sit here and watch the sunrise one more time, and I'm gonna be with the missus. Like very well acted. I'm very sad to see him go. And it just proves that like the writers didn't know what they're doing. Like, oh hey, we have 2 likable Harfoots. One we're gonna kill off, and the other we're not gonna make chief. It's just like, do you think we're gonna see the Harfoot tribe again, or do you think we're done with them?
Well, so okay. Poppy said, make a promise we'll see you again. I'll see you again. Dude.
No.
Never again.
Never.
They're gone. That's why this should be more heavy. Like, granted, if you're a Harfoot, you know where you travel to. And even Nori said, we go to here, to here, to here. So if she wants to go to see them, at a certain point in the year, she could have a pretty good guess as to where they'll be.
Yeah.
So if she survives this rune trip, which, spoiler, she will, like, she could go back, I'm sure. I think it would be more heartfelt, more poignant, more real if it's like, we may never see you again. Like, this is you are leaving this group. You are, going off trail. But I do think we will see them again. I hope not for at least a season.
That's the thing, is that, like, we spent a whole season. I don't know.
I think the showrunners even said we'll see them again too. I think so.
Okay, got it.
But what were we like? Oh, by getting us close to these people and then just shit canning them?
Maybe that was their plan of like, hey, we're not going to make anyone too likable because you might not see them for like a season or 2, which I guess makes sense. But I swear, if they don't have Poppy show up in the first or second episode, being like, you couldn't keep me away if you tried, like, or something like that, something very Sam Gamgee like, it's just a waste.
Yeah,
it's like I'm going to be annoyed at that, where they are willfully trying to separate themselves from the movies when they don't need to be.
Poppy being separated from her was one of the biggest what the heck moments for me watching
Yeah.
it the first time, and it still doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't make sense. It's indefensible, truly, because like having just them two go off alone, one, it just looks weird. I don't know, like just one tall, one giant, and one Harfoot. Like it just like
wow, you're being sizist right now.
I'm being so sizist right now. But it's just like they have no conversations. Like, what are they gonna talk about? Like, you need two people to like bounce off each other, and that's Poppy and Nori. They've done it all season long.
Yeah.
And continue that, because Poppy, she's an orphan. She doesn't have a family, so like Nori is her family.
Well, and they're like, you be better at reading trails than me. And the woman continues to be the leader. So either make Poppy the leader, or Poppy's like, you know what? You're right. I should help them. What a perfect entrance it would have been for Poppy when they say, well, I don't know which direction to go, as opposed to giving us the nod to Gandalf, follow your nose. And Poppy's like, I know how to read trails. I'll be good to you. Like, I'll tell you how to go. It's
something.
They biffed
but yeah,
it.
It should have been one of the. It should have been one of the two. Either she goes with them or she becomes chief.
Yeah, I just think it's weird. It is weird. So I'm with you. Season 2, if they don't bring her along, they actually betrayed us as an audience. They really did, for sure. But that's how pretty much the Harfoots wraps. Anything else you want to say about them before we move?
The terrible, boring, worst storyline.
Yeah.
And like this isn't a shot at the actors or anything like that. They did their job. But it's just like you could have had half of their screen time and told the same exact story.
Yeah, especially if they're like not going to be seen for a full season.
Yeah. Like if you're just going to end up with Nori and the stranger at the very end, have a few bonding scenes, I guess have the witches show up, and then like whatever. I don't know, man. Like,
well, this is going to go into my full criticism next episode of like, this didn't need to be an episode of Guess Who. You're totally right. This doesn't need to be Clue. All right. So we then we do get a little bit of some sexy time under the in the boat between Elendil and Muriel. It's kind of hot. I'm just gonna say it. They're both experiencing grief and loss, and Elendil, who was completely rocked by the fact that his son died and he let the elf on board, actually has like a resurgence of his faith, which is I thought was nice too.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? It's totally fair for him to experience regret and loss, but then he did need to say, I made all those choices throughout. It's not like I stumbled into this. I let my son go. I chose to save her. I chose to be a faithful through and throughout. I guess I just don't love the implication of what they're saying here is that the elves are godlike and they have to be faithful for the elves, and that means and requires loss and sacrifice on this huge level. For what? To be the favored people? I just kind of don't love that they're like making elves into this what's like
deities?
Yes,
or
but
demigods?
that don't care. They're like, well, you might have to die to serve us. Like,
and that's the thing, is that like the elves are just I said this while we were watching it, and they made everyone besides Elrond and Galadriel like these indifferent a-holes.
Sure.
Like every single elf we meet is just like this stone-faced, like wispy witch or wizard as they like pass by, unfeeling and unthinking, and like Gil-galad just like doubling and tripling down on just like, no, all is lost. We're leaving. Bye. We hate you. By the way, Galadriel, like you shouldn't even be here. Like just everything about it. And it's just like, again, we've said this all season. Who am I rooting for? Who am I rooting for in this world? Because I don't have a lot that I'm hanging on to.
Yeah.
Because like you don't need much. I'm okay with elves being reserved emotionally. Like that's a very good thing, but we've said it 1,000 times. Would you like me to find you a box? The simple, shoulder like tap that Legolas gives Aragorn at the end of the trilogy is all we need.
Right.
And it's like all these things, like I don't need these huge exuberant amounts of emotion, but you have the drawing board, and that's the frustrating thing, is that, like, if this was the first Lord of the Rings thing, then yeah, it's very hard. It is hard to faithfully and, like, very, for lack of a better term, good, like, adapt fantasy. We've
Sure.
seen it with Dune, you know, like, people like that show, another Amazon series, Wheel of Time. People really like it, some people don't like it. Golden Compass, the movie didn't really work, but I hear the HBO show is good. But it's hard to adapt these things, especially in live action, because there's not that suspension of disbelief, but also you in your in your mind's eye create all these different things in fantasy worlds and stuff like that. But you have the template. You have 6 movies right there of showing, like, hey, to varying degrees, this is what things look like. This is how these things act. This is how these races interact with each other, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, no, I'm fine with them not faithfully to a T doing the Silmarillion or how the rings were created. I'm fine with that. I am. But to just, like, purposely, like, push away the source material and be like, no, we don't want that. It's like, well, that's why people are watching this show to begin with. So what are you doing here?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think one change that I do like is and I hope they do, like, expand on it. I like it's weird because at first when Elendil is introduced, he's like a big dude in the appendices. And so, like, for her to be Muriel to go, I think he's a shipmaster, like, to not know who the fuck that guy is kind of a wild call. But I'm just realizing now they're probably going to make it so that Muriel and Elendil, like, get together, because in the lore, actually, Pharazôn, who's, like, the dissenter who, like, wants to whatever, you know, the corrupt dude, he's Muriel's cousin and makes Muriel in the books marry him to get to be a king. So I think we'll see Elendil become a king by, like, them fostering this relationship, which does make for better storytelling, I think. If you have a reason for doing things. But there's certain things that I don't think they realize the choices they made just for, like, dramatics or the things that they say, it doesn't follow through well even to episode 8. Like, and we'll talk about it more when we get to the elf stuff, because it's a big criticism I have, like, that I didn't notice when Gil-galad says, we sent Galadriel away in hopes that it would stave it off. She never went away, so what does that mean? You know, I don't know. Yeah. Because you're right, it's easy to get in the woods, in the weeds of all this stuff. But yeah, I think if at the end of the day, you're just giving us relationship and people that we care about that are interesting and aren't just bad guys that are struggling with whether to be broody or not, then it could be more interesting. Show us the levels of the experience of emotions.
Yeah, and it goes back to, like, when Halbrand kind of, like, introduces himself to Celebrimbor, and when Celebrimbor is like, oh, this was the workshop of Celebrimbor. Who says that? You're him. I wouldn't say, oh, this is the room of Ben Goddard. Like, what?
Well, he kind of is saying it. Well, first of all, I just think I'm painting it with my own brush. I think he's turned on by this dude immediately. So I think he's just
flattered. Well, and that's the thing, is that is Celebrimbor supposed to be, like, the nutty professor or something who's, like, really smart but, like, dumb?
No, because you called this out before. He's like, he said stupid things before too.
Well, the fact that Halbrand's first thing is to be like, well, what if you combined it with another metal? He's never the greatest elven smith in the history of time has never thought to combine metals to, like, calm it down or whatever they say. Like, this, I understand this is Sauron. I understand that, but, like, you have to do a little bit better than that. Like, he's got to come up with, like, some chemical, or, you know, go full Walter White with blue meth or something. I don't know, man.
Sure.
Like, he's got to come up with something rather than, like, oh yeah, you could do that. And it was like, whoa. And it feels like it felt like they should have gotten to Eregion last episode, because this feels really rushed, where they're just like, oh, we gotta go combine the two metals. Oh, they're gonna be crowns. No, we need 2. Oh, we can't say the word rings, but they're gonna be 3 rings. Oh, and you're Sauron. Okay, bye. Oh, we still created it. It's like, get their last episode where
make his life be in dire straits. Like maybe he isn't gonna survive, or give us some drama. You're totally right. Rather than having them walk around in Orange Land talking for a full episode, create some aftermath, actual aftermath.
Yep.
For them. Yeah, that's such a good point. I find it frustrating that we have to rewrite this so much.
So much, because like there is really good stuff in here, and like I like Galadriel starting to become suspicious of him with how much he jumps on board of like creating this new thing, and her finally doing some research of his I'm gonna do my own research. But just like it's a well-crafted episode, but it felt like this whole buildup just started this episode. Because, okay, so was this... Now, I know you said you figured it out, but never in this show do they hint that Halbrand could be Sauron, ever.
Do they hint that Halbrand could be Sauron?
Yeah.
How? You mean
No.
there's... Hold on. Go on.
There is no hint, from my perspective, there's no hint or like, oh, we gotta watch this guy. He's a little suspicious.
Oh.
There's no like...
Besides like him wanting to be Smith in Numenor or something like that.
But that seems more like a... I don't know, like
red herring or something.
Not a red herring, but more like a ruffian thing. Like, oh, he's like a Han Solo type. He's like, oh, I'll smuggle my way into Numenor and I'll steal a badge and I'll become a blacksmith. Like, it seems like they're going for that more than this guy is the darkest of Dark Lords of all time.
Sure.
And so that's the thing, is that if you would have started this whole Forging of the Rings last episode, that would have been a cliffhanger of Galadriel either like reading the scroll or finding something out, or what Celeborn says about like, oh, power over the flesh or something like that. Like something clicks,
right?
And then you have a week of a cliffhanger to be like, oh, what's up with Halbrand?
Sure.
But instead we get everything in this one episode, including the stuff with the stranger. You could say that same thing about the stranger, where have the last episode with the witches catching up with the stranger and kneeling to him, being like, here we are, Sauron.
Sure,
boom, credits.
Sure.
But instead they do it right before the opening, and then 10 minutes later he's like, no, I'm not Sauron. He's not Sauron. Oh no.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later you're like, oh, that's Sauron. Okay. And so have that happen last episode, either one or the other, where, because there's no build up to like, who is this guy? It all happens immediately. She asked the elf PA to go get her some scrolls and says, tell no one. And he's like, sorry, lady, I'm on my union lunch. And she's like, damn the Teamsters, you're on strike.
Oh my God.
But no, just like you don't have any of that build up to a good twist. And so it's very frustrating just to have all of this
crammed into one episode.
Because how hard, like the scene hits hard already with her brother, and then especially when her brother like come back to me, like that last scream that he does. Very well done.
Yes.
Major miscast that this guy is her dead brother and not a main character in the show, because he's got the look and he's got the chops.
He's got the look.
But then them going on the boat and having that long conversation, and just like basically Jesus and the devil in the desert for 40 days being tempted right there.
Totally.
Like surrounded by seawater. I'm okay with like the reflection of them like with his helmet on.
I genuinely love it.
So good.
I genuinely love it.
And they only tease it for a second before it goes back to them, and they just show it. And then kind of dancing around, like, her speech from Fellowship, like, if I had the ring, I'd be the temptress of the gods and the foundations of the earth, like all that's, and that's the thing. You're okay with using these things from other movies, so use it more. It's okay.
Yeah.
So this scene is so good, but it just could have hit so much harder if there was more build up to it, where like she had suspected, like she's going back and forth all season of like, who is this guy? But instead this whole season, which is, that's her character growth, but you as the audience have been like, yeah, but he did that thing. Galadriel didn't see what he did there, but he did something weird there. And there's something off about this guy, and I don't know what it is.
So I think you and I are going to not be on the same page here, because I actually think there was just enough to accomplish what the showrunners wanted, which is for us to not necessarily know it was Sauron. But I had fun going, you guys, come on. It is. So, because I think there was enough from letting the people die on the raft, even though they were assholes, from him being interested, to the speech that he gives to her. Like, I for me and my sensibilities, I think we had enough to justify the reveal and not it be like beating us over the head here. So, but I can see your perspective as well. It wouldn't have hurt to have one more like, yo, did he just eat that bird or something weird like that? Did he just talk to a crow?
Yeah.
Like, is that a Crebain thing or whatever? Like, it certainly could have had one more, but also them not showing their full deck of cards early on kind of works for me. It just does.
But even if you just do it in episode 7.
Sure.
Not like everything happens in the finale.
I think that I can get behind or agree with you more. If we had done that was weird. Power over flesh? Like, and then, yes, get that moment in the perfect world. If they send him to Eregion at the end of episode 7, that totally works for me. I can get beyond that or behind that.
And it would have given us something like you said, instead of walking in the land of ash for 45 minutes, like literally doing nothing.
Genuinely a waste of an episode and a waste of an audience's time. It just is. So
yeah.
If they could have done anything, it would have been an improvement. Literally anything else. Like,
I'm watching this anime, and I decided to read the manga because the pacing was just so tough. Because, like, it's this really popular manhwa, which is like a Korean manga.
Oh.
And it's finally being adapted, and the first season was good. But literally, like, it's 7 episodes in out of a 12-episode season. And they labeled episode 7.5, and it's like a catch-up of the last 6 episodes, and everyone's just like, what?
You don't need that.
Yeah, and I think it was like the lowest rated episode in Crunchyroll history, because everyone was just like, we were waiting for a new episode, not a recap of everything we've just watched. Like, this isn't the beginning of a second season. This isn't 20 episodes in or something. It's just we just started. We don't need this, and that's what this episode felt like. In an 8-episode season, we get a filler episode, and it's like, but we didn't need a filler episode. There's not room for filler.
How weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like we talked about it last week in our last episode when we ripped it apart. Last week's episode was useless and a waste of our time and their dollars. Better to have made 7 episodes, 6 episodes, and leave it at that. And give us more to chew on,
For sure. Like, you can have that same moment of, like, literally back to back, where you have the power over the flesh, that's suspect, and then you cut to the Harfoots, and then the witch is kneeling at the stranger's feet, being like, "You're Sauron." You're like, "Oh, I guess he's Sauron."
So
okay.
He is Sauron, yeah.
And then and then the next episode it flips, and you're like, and boom, like it's all right there. But I love the memory corporeal mental battle that he gives her is so good, because it is tempting. He is getting to her, and like the close-ups, the close-ups of their face really work.
She's never looked more beautiful.
It's insane how, like, and this is the thing, is I don't think he's unattractive.
Sure.
But she outstrips him by a mile, and I think that's why I'm like so biased, where it's like, because of these close-ups where I'm like, oh, angelic perfect goddess to barista you see in Silver Lake. That, like,
but that's my type, Ben.
No, but that's the thing, is that you do see like hot people people have made careers out of like having their crushes on like their barista, and it's like you would see like a long-haired hoop earrings, tattoos,
don't say it.
What's up,
man
Jessica?
bun.
I got your mocha latte right here, baby. I saw you coming.
Stop.
How's your improv going? Are you making a Herald team yet?
Fuck you. Fuck you.
I got my shift covered on Wednesday. I'll come to your battle show.
You know what? This is fanfic because that would never happen to me.
I'm just saying. Like when I say, I don't want to sound insulting when I say Silver Lake Barista because we have a lot of non-LA people watching this, but people move to LA to become movie stars and they got to pay their bills until they become one. So we have a lot of good-looking people in the service industry here.
It's not an insult. It is literally a vocation out here to be that bro, for sure.
Yeah.
I do think he's going toe to toe with her acting, and it's worth the price of entry just to get to that scene with them, and it's very good. Then I don't know. He leaves her to drown.
Does he plan on killing her like right there, and Elrond saves her, or is she like drowning in metaphorically?
Well, I mean, she's definitely he pulled her from the river. I think he knew she would get out or something, but like I think she's also drowning under the weight of like the thing that she did here.
Yeah, like she's not, I don't know, maybe she's not trying as hard to like save herself in this moment where because it's like a combination of everything.
She's guilty for what she did here. Yeah, I think that's more it.
I'm okay with that. That works.
No, it works. It totally works. But then she, here's the thing, and this is something you talked about that you don't like in TV shows, and I'm right there with you. She comes back, she's got the idea that they got to split it up into 3. It shouldn't be 2, balance of power, checks and balance. But I'm not going to tell you who the hell Halbrand is.
Yeah, so is it because she's afraid, like what he said, that she's afraid that if she tells Elrond or Celebrimbor or Gil-galad that like, oh, Halbrand is Sauron, and then they're going to be like, well, you brought him here. Yeah. What's going on?
I think that is it. And like, I wonder if they don't end up making the rings, because that's kind of what I think Elrond is doing, is when he picks up the scroll and comes running, even though that's been sitting there for 5 days and he could have looked at it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think he's about to say, we shouldn't be making this, because that dude was like, and also, even though Sauron didn't forge the rings, homie worked with the Mithril.
He did.
So like,
and like that whole shot of the Mithril going into the molten thing is definitely the Eye of Sauron. Like it is absolutely that.
They're supposed to be untouched by him, and you can't say that after having him handle the Mithril.
So do you think this is a red herring and they're going to make 3 new rings once they get more Mithril from the dwarves?
No, I don't think so. I think they just made a mistake. Like because granted, it's not the same. Like it would be like, just to give them like a little pass, it would be like if Sauron had the gold he was going to make the ring for, but didn't end up making the ring. It's not like he infused his power. His power is being infused once he's forging it. That's the magic. But it's not untouched by him, is my only point.
To a degree, I guess it could be, because like they don't start, like they put they use the dagger after, she comes out of the river.
Right.
They put the Mithril in after, like this is all post reveal. So I guess in a way it is, but he did have like a big imprint on like basically everything surrounding, besides like the actual manual labor of it. Like he was like the foreman at the construction site. He just wasn't like hammering the nails and stuff.
Yeah. So I think ultimately, no, he doesn't have influence over these rings, which was the whole purpose for the elves to make it in secret, so that Sauron didn't have power over them, essentially. Yeah. But they make beautiful rings.
They do look really good, and the process of that, I don't know if those are actual, ring makers, jewelry makers that they had on set, but I love that whole process. It really works, and they look really good. They look really good. They're very well filmed. Like I have no complaints about that. But like, is the Elrond running up the stairs with his weird CGI shadow in the windows looking like Harry Potter, like something? Is that supposed to be like that cliffhanger? Like he's gonna reveal that how like everything there?
I think he's coming to go, wait, Halbrand isn't who we said he was? And who is he, basically?
For sure. Yeah, it just... And then we see Halbrand going back into Mordor, where it's like, I guess these are cliffhangers, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, second season, here we come.
Totally.
And I mean, I don't need it to be like, I'll never forget that Sons of Anarchy one season, the main character's son gets kidnapped and taken to Ireland, and that's like the last thing you see, and you're like, what?
Oh, wow.
But it's like, if you're not gonna tell a complete story with this season, which I really don't think they did outside of maybe making the rings, I guess, but it wasn't like they set out at the very beginning, like, we gotta make some rings. You know what? Episode 1, we're ring making, baby, but we just don't have the materials.
Right.
Then you do need a cliffhanger. You do need something to draw the audience back in, and there, you have Nori and the Stranger, Gandalf going on their adventure. You have Sauron returning to Mordor. But, like, you should have showed Adar, or him walking toward a pack of orcs or something. You should have shown that, like, it should have been like a blinking, like, hey, here's what's going on in Moria again. Here's what's, like, what...
Here's the Balrog, or
like,
whatever.
They, have Elrond open the door and Galadriel look at him and the scroll in his hand. And then cut to black or something, and that's the last time we see them. Like, there's so much.
Is it possible that they didn't do that because they had already just bounced us around with, whoa, is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Is it possible they just didn't want to, like, do that to us now? Do you know what I mean by that?
But what's drawing you back to this series? What is, like,
Lord
we can
of the
talk about
Rings.
this more. Exactly.
Right.
It's right now, it's just that. And so if this show wants to stand on its own 2 feet, which it definitely does, because it's making choices that are straying away from other movies and stuff like that, even if it's just homages or references to it, they're not doing it. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But what if it's not that? Why are people coming back? Why do people want to see what happens with Galadriel? If so, have them show, like, Elrond walking in the door with the scroll. If people care about Durin, have them anywhere in the fucking finale.
Jesus.
Like,
and have some sort of cliffhanger.
Yeah.
With them. And I think that's right.
And if you care about Nori, have her go on an adventure with her best friend, not a strange 8-foot wizard.
I think that does it for this episode. That's a fucking perfect wrap up, dude. Anything else you want to say before we let our friends go and then ask them to join us for next week's wrap up on the whole series?
Yeah, we're going to have overall thoughts next week. But most importantly, guys, outside of, like, 5 stars, all that good stuff, we got a Q&A episode after our overview of the series. And I want to hear some good Qs because I got some good A's, baby.
Ooh! Snap. All right, you do that. And until we meet again, until next time.
Maripaz, meet again, maybe. I don't know. I'm hungry.
I don't know. What's up?